In 2025, two of Africa's biggest economies just made global financial history: Nigeria and South Africa. The powerhouses of the continent have finally been removed from the Financial Action Task Force grey list. But what does that actually mean? Why were they on it in the first place? And how does this change affect your money, your bank, and even your country's reputation in the world? This isn't just a financial headline. It's a turning point, a silent power shift that could reshape Africa's financial future. Welcome to the story of how Nigeria and South Africa got grey listed, fought back, and finally earned their way off the global watch list. To understand why this is such a big deal, let's start with the basics. The Financial Action Task Force, or FATF, is like the global referee of money. It makes sure countries are doing enough to stop dirty money, things like money laundering, terrorist financing, and corruption. Now, when the FATF finds that a country's systems are weak, it doesn't ban them completely, but it puts them on something called the grey list. Think of it like being placed on academic probation. You are still in school, but the teachers are watching you very closely. Being grey listed means international banks, investors, and companies become more cautious when dealing with you. Transactions take longer, foreign investments slow down, and your country's financial reputation takes a hit. In short, it becomes harder to move money around the world. So, when Nigeria and South Africa got grey listed, it wasn't just embarrassing, it was expensive. Nigeria's journey to the grey list started years before 2023. For decades, the country has struggled with issues like corruption, cyber fraud, and money laundering. But in 2021, global agencies began raising red flags about Nigeria's inability to track suspicious financial flows. In February 2023, FATF officially placed Nigeria on the grey list. They pointed to weaknesses in how Nigeria investigated and prosecuted money laundering cases and how it monitored funds related to terrorism in the north. It wasn't just about criminals moving money, it was about systems that weren't strong enough to stop them. Almost overnight, banks and fintech companies began to feel the pressure. Foreign investors hesitated. Some international partners quietly pulled out of deals. It was a wake-up call for the government. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who came into office later in 2023, promised reforms. Under the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, or NFIU, the Nigerian began a major clean-up. New anti-money laundering laws were passed. Banks started using stricter KYC systems, that is, Know Your Customer. And regulators began working more closely with global agencies. It was a long, painful process, but Nigeria was determined to fix its reputation. Meanwhile, down south, South Africa, one of the continent's most advanced economies, was fighting its own battle. In 2023, the FATF also grey listed South Africa, citing major failures in tackling corruption and financial crimes. For a country that hosts some of the world's biggest banks and businesses, this was a blow to nation pride. The FATF said South Africa wasn't doing enough to monitor suspicious transactions or prosecute financial crimes, especially those tied to political corruption and state capture scandals that had rocked the country for years. South Africa's finance minister, Enoch Godongwana, called it a national emergency. From that moment, the government went on the offensive. They restructured their anti-money laundering framework. They strengthened the Financial Intelligence Center, and they began fast-tracking cases linked to financial crimes. By 2024, the results were showing. Convictions increased. New transparency laws were introduced, and by early 2025, South Africa was ready for reassessment. Getting off the grey list isn't easy. It's not about one meeting or one law. It's about showing real, lasting change. Countries have to meet dozens of criteria. They must prove that their financial systems can detect and prevent illegal money flows. They must show consistency prosecutions of offenders, and their reports have to be verified by international observers. For Nigeria and South Africa, this process took nearly 2 years. In February 2025, after multiple reviews, the FATF finally made its decision. Nigeria and South Africa were officially removed from the grey list. It was more than just a press release, it was a global signal. Africa's two biggest financial engines had cleaned up their systems and regained international trust. For Nigeria, it means investors could start to breathe again. For South Africa, it means smoother international banking operations. And for the entire continent, it means hope. Because if these two countries could reform, others could follow. Now let's break this down to the everyday level. What does this actually mean for you? If you are in Nigeria or South Africa, getting off the grey list has real-world benefits. Faster international transactions because banks abroad no longer treat your country as high risk. Increased investors' confidence, meaning more businesses are likely to set up or invest in your economy. Stronger currency stability as foreign exchange inflows improve. More job opportunities, since a better business environment attracts industries that had previously left. It's like the global economy is saying, okay, we trust you again. Of course, it doesn't mean everything is fixed overnight, but it opens doors that were previously locked. Imagine a startup in Lagos now being able to partner easily with an investor in London, or a South African export company securing faster payments from Europe. That's the difference. This moment isn't just about two countries, it's about Africa's image in global finance. For too long, the continent has been associated with corruption, fraud, and financial instability, but the tide is turning. Kenya, Ghana, Botswana, Rwanda all have been improving their financial regulations. The African Continental Free Trade Area, or AFCFTA, is pushing for more transparency and cross-border cooperation. With Nigeria and South Africa off the grey list, it sends a message. Africa can meet global standards. Africa can build trust. Africa can do business cleanly and competitively. This change could even make African currencies more attractive to foreign investors and boost the use of African financial systems in international trade. It's slow, yes, but it's progress. Still, this isn't the end of the story. Being off the grey list doesn't mean you are safe forever. If reforms slow down or if corruption creeps back in, the FATF can easily put a country back on their watch. Both Nigeria and South Africa still face challenges. In Nigeria, financial crimes linked to politics and the underground economy remain a problem. In South Africa, state corruption investigations are still ongoing. The fight against dirty money never really ends. It's a continuous process, and it requires strong institutions, not just political speeches. So, the real question now is, will these reforms last? Or was this just a temporary clean-up for the cameras? Only time will tell. For now, this is the moment of pride and possibility. Nigeria and South Africa have shown that even in a world that doubts Africa, change is possible. They've shown that reform works, that progress, though slow, is real. Every investor, every entrepreneur, every ordinary citizen benefits when trust returns to the system. So the next time you hear about grey lists and FATF reports, remember, it's not just finance talk. It's about your money, your future, and your country's place in the world. Because when Africa cleans up its money, it unlocks its power. This is not the end. It's the beginning of a cleaner, stronger, and more respected Africa. Thanks for watching. Stay sharp, stay curious, and remember, in finance, nothing lasts forever.